welcome back to the Enchanted Inkwell. I'm Michael.
I'm Britt.
And I'm Blake.
Thanks for sticking with us through our week absence, but we're hopefully back on schedule. Mm-hmm. We're deep in the heart of set championship season now.
Spooky Shimmering Skies set championships.
All right. I think one of the, kind of hot button topics since we started recording our podcast has been set championships. Should they be exclusive to local members of your store, or should they be open to everybody? Should they be gated or should they not be, right? And we've seen a lot of opinions online and have heard a lot of voices, and even how the set championships are being run in our local stores that may be received, less than warmly, or everybody has an opinion, right?
Sure, right. So like the TCGs are everybody's second hobby. Everybody's first hobby is how events and stores should be run.
Oh, yes.
Having opinions about how events and stores should be run. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So I guess, what's everybody's take on that? Do you think that a store should be allowed to say, hey, only people who play here, or should these set championships be open to anybody, first come, first serve, availability, space limited only, or whatever?
As far as gating, like, it seems wishy-washy to be like, I can see both sides, but truly closing off an important event that people are excited for is sort of antithetical to what Lorcana is as a, like, come in, inclusive, welcoming, like, there's, people from all geography isn't necessarily considered, like, come play with us. And so to be like, oh, but for this important thing, no new friends. Like, close the doors, no new friends. It seems antithetical to the spirit of Lorcana. But on the other hand, I think it's naive to not understand that when you have prizing that's worth a significant amount of money, it is going to attract people into smaller ponds. And they're specifically going to look for smaller ponds. And they're specifically going to look for what are my best odds to achieve this prizing. And I guess, like, the third point of it is, if you perform at that level, you have earned your reward for it. How did you get there is maybe some people would argue not as important as the fact that you got there. But all of those things are sort of like, put me on the fence about gating to locals. And I think that part of I really like the change to top 8 prizing, right? Yep. Like, it seems very weird because I think we've even maybe talked about this even casually or on the podcast.
We definitely talked about
did about how top 8ing in an event in other TCGs is like an accomplishment. Truly, it's an accomplishment in Lorcana. That is when the rules change to be like, these are the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the finals. You have different time limits. You have different, sure, even in DLCs, you go from 2-game format to best of 3. So there's a recognition that top 8 is important culturally to the game of Lorcana.
Sure.
Prize it that way.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, right? Because it feels really bad to, like, hit a threshold. Oh, we cut to top 8. I hit top 8 and then nothing.
Didn't prize out at all.
Right. And,
right.
And didn't nothing. Right.
Yeah.
And so it does feel a lot better that I made an argument at one point. If you were just going to top 4 prize stitches or top 4 prize promos, just cut to top 4. Like,
literally,
add extra rounds and just cut to top 4, because why set a milestone which then is effectively achieves nothing? Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Because there's the OP kit that is given to stores. There's no charge to stores for that.
Right.
So that is the exclusive prizing. We were talking about this a little bit today. That is the exclusive prizing.
Right.
You can't split that. Like, there's no tearing a card down the center, but that is what is provided for these events. stores at their discretion give additional pricing.
Right.
We are very fortunate to play in stores that have a robust additional pricing. But there are stores out there that are charging $30, $35, $40 for set championships, and the pricing associated with those set championships is exclusively the set championship OP kit. I guess the point that I'm making, the reason that I like it is it goes hand in hand with that conversation of like, was the Mirable set championship a flop? Is this card not worth $400? So it means the game is dying, blah, 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 that whole kind of thing. I say more friends are better than less friends. More prizes are better than less prizes. Top 8 is important for a reason. Prize it out. And then it makes the gating question irrelevant. Less relevant.
So
what do you think?
I think you make a lot of good points. I've always had this stance that, because I think it started with the first set championships of like, whether it should or should not be gated. And I think that comes to the overall conversation of, competitive versus like casual gaming, right? And these are meant to be sort of like the very local sort of tournament aspect of things. So I specifically don't have a problem with stores gating if they want to gate, right? And I think my reason for saying that is that it comes down to the store at the end of the day is really responsible to their community, right? And their community are the ones that are coming in, sitting in the seats, buying product from them, et cetera. Whereas you could potentially have people that are fishing for a smaller pond, coming from larger distances in order to, exact those prizes. I don't specifically think that set champs are dying. I think we saw major functional changes, right? We had talked about pricing to top 8, whether that be, the top 4 were foil, and then the 5th through 8 were non-foil versions, like which would have been a perfectly acceptable
I think that's
solution.
a great modification if they do that in the future.
I don't really have a problem with them keeping the print run, the same and just handing out the foils, right? Like it's a cost issue for Ravensburger as well. Like why not just allow them to do the top 8? And as the game grows, right, as things go, like top 8 is, again, it's the standard. It's the TCG standard. So there's no reason why somebody shouldn't get the prize for making top 8. And I think that change in and of itself actually kind of helped with what we're, the whole gating concept, right? Because when it was, you could only get it by getting a top 4. I think you saw that the level of stress more than anything was extremely high because you knew you could top 8, but you still had to win another match just to be able to get the bauble.
Literally, that's and I think we've all been in that position. You were sort of like, it's the equivalent of what it was like at DLC DFW because
yeah, I mean a little bit. I top 8'd Ursula set champ.
Oh, that's right.
I top 8'd 1 and then bubbled out and didn't get the Ursula in top 4.
Yeah,
right?
that was.
But you had that experience, right, in set 3 where you
England's.
in England's you top 8'd and then missed out.
My one glory.
Yeah, and then. I mean, I don't know if you ever missed out on the bobble, but I know recently you top 8'd and then didn't top 4.
It's a great way to push into that question. But to kind of go back to what I was saying with the attendance, I think by pushing pricing out to top 8, you're going to see a lot fewer people traveling to the smaller ponds to be able to try and extract that bauble. So I think it's a combination of that factor, the fact that, there are now going to be twice as many, technically more, because there's probably more stores that were accepted. Yeah.
The program expands.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
The game keeps growing.
Yeah.
So I think the perceived notion that it's going to be easier to get the bauble would also drive down attendance, because now instead of somebody looking for literally every event that they can attend and trying to go to all of them, they're going to pick more their local stores and go to their local stores. So to kind of go back to what you were saying, my example is that I have 2 stores that I play at. If they have set champs, that's effectively where I play. Now, technically that's 4 stores because one of the stores is a chain of 3 and we are very community oriented there. So specifically speaking, I do that. But the pressure was very real for the first set champs because I only had the opportunity to play in 2. I went on vacation for the rest of the time. And so I was able to get to both of my stores. I top 8'd one and lost out in the top 8. And then that put even more pressure on me to do well the next day, which fortunately I did. And I was able to get a second place. And then again, I did 3 for the Ursula's Return set champs. I bricked out of 2.
I know you did well at 1. I don't remember the other 2.
I think I bricked out of 2, and then the last one again full pressure and ended up top 4ing there. So I got that one,
Nice.
and then this time again 3 set champs. My 3 local. It would have been 4, but I'm actually going somewhere next week, so I can't play the one that like kind of started it all for me, which is sad. And I've been able to top 8 2 of the 3.
Going back to the question about gating or just letting anybody in, I think that you make a good point in saying that whatever benefits your community the most is the move that the store should make, right? And whether that be gating it or allowing everybody to come, that's based on the store, because
different stores have different needs, right?
Right. Yeah. Because like I think that if you live out in rural somewhere and you only get 8 people, but people don't know your store, and you have a struggle kind of trying to get people to intro into the game, why not get more, like pump more influx into that community, get more people traveling from other places, and like potentially putting you kind of on the map, right? Like, oh, I wouldn't have normally come here. You're a little bit further than my regular store, but hey, I had a great experience, so I might put you in the rotation, right? Something like that. Great benefit to help growing the store's Lorcana population, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you have a community already that you're happy with as a store, you're a small shop, you can only fit 16 people in. Every week you get 16 people anyways, and all your players like love each other or whatever, and like you don't really have a desire or a need to really want to grow, then by all means, like keep the prize within your community. Like to me, it doesn't really affect me all that much, right? Because they're the ones keeping your lights on. They're coming every week. You already have the growth where you want it to be. And it would be a shame if somebody came from out of town and just sharked the prize away from somebody that you've seen grow and play the whole time.
And I think that that's the aspect that kind of causes the most friction, right?
Yeah.
Because you're allowing this idea that we're going to grow the community by holding this event, when the reality is everybody's just in it for themselves to a certain degree.
Sure.
Including the local group that wants it gated, right? They just want but at the same time, when outsiders come and they shark the bauble and then they don't come back, have you grown the community? You've actually probably put more risk on losing the community that you already have.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where it gets really frustrating. So that's why I go back to you as the store. Like, you're the one that has to make that decision kind of for you and or your community, right? Because the truth is the true sweatiest of players, like the pure sweaty players, right? They will go to the big events to play in big events. They want the best competition. But then you have another subset of sweaty players that just want to win at all cost, and they'll do the wrong thing at the wrong time.
The community is better when more people get to bring their strengths to it. No new friends is not a way to like necessarily have the most potential, get the most out of your potential in that community. But then the other side of it is like exactly what you were saying. Are they going to stick around, or are they just there to take a prize card out of someone's hands?
Right. Because at the end of the day, really people that are coming in to snipe the prize, they're not building a community. They're not trying to build a community. It's just bad feels from the community. For everybody involved. Yeah.
Right. And the justification on that side of it is, if I've performed at this level, I have earned my reward. thank you very much. I have done nothing wrong. I'm out.
And
Which I'm not disagreeing
Right.
with, right? Like, proof is in the pudding. The performance is what it is.
Right. Like, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, right? Like, if I really, really, really wanted the card and I found a place that I thought was lower competition or I had a better chance to go get the prize, then, you know, if it's worth it to me, time, value, whatever, then like, why not? Right. That's my end goal. My end goal is to get the thing for whatever reason. Then why not? Like, I don't care. Like, my end goal isn't to grow the community. My end goal isn't to, you know, help everybody around me. My end goal is to just get the prize. And so, like, why not take every opportunity and do that, if given the chance, right? And so I'm not faulting them, those types of players, or blaming those types of players, right, in any way, shape, or form. I think that the side complaint that we've been seeing online is also like, oh, the prize card isn't like playable or isn't super valuable anymore, so like it's not worth it for me to play set championships.
Lorcana's dying. Mirabelle's trash.
Well, not even dying, but just like, oh, why should I play in this set championship if the card isn't worth $100, $200, $300, $400? And part of that then is my justification to that is, well, then don't drive an hour away and try to win this card that's not valuable to you. Like, other people have other value with that for other reasons. They like to commemorate top 8ing. They like the character. They just want to collect them all. Like, they all have their own reasons. If the reason for you is value and the card is not valuable as cash money, then do the math and don't waste your time getting it.
But I think that is a part of the attendance issue, right? Is the fact that they doubled the amount, so it theoretically makes it easier to obtain one, right? To be able to get the bauble, you can do it in more locations now. But then it is kind of a feels bad scenario when you're spending $40 for a tournament to win a $40 card, and that's it. So I don't think that that's necessarily a positive or a negative, right? Like, in my case, I was still happy to top 8. I don't think the card was relevant, right? For me specifically, but I can understand why it would be for other people.
I don't really have any sympathy for players who are trying to play this for profit. And that's where I'm at with that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I would agree at this point, right? Like, you take all of our bad experiences from other games and we're trying to avoid that as much as possible. And it's like, sometimes people will fall short of that, but are they making an effort to not be that? That's where I come from. And so I totally get where you're coming from, where it's like, you know, these people that are literally trying to make a job out of sniping local tournaments because there is no higher level pro tour at this point in time. It's not behavior becoming of a quality community.
Just that whole concept of, oh, the set championship is like Lorcana RB screwed up because the set championship cards aren't worth anything anymore. It's like, I don't know, they're not worth dollar value, but they have worth. People are still obviously turning out to these events and working hard to win this thing because it's a trophy, right?
I was going to say, last time I checked, a bowling trophy wasn't necessarily made out of platinum. And there are folks who are stoked in their hobby when they get, you know, a little marble with some plastic that's like gold plated. Like, it's a representation of your accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. You're proud of your own accomplishment of whatever. Like, and that's the outcry online that I'm having, like, a lot of problems just like not going out there and just like online stabbing people. Being like,
he means
I mean online
challenging
stabbing.
people.
just just being like, dude, if you don't want to drive an hour for, like, nobody's making you do any of this, right? Like, if you don't want to play in the set championship because you think that the card is not good, the art is not good, whatever reason, then don't. Nobody's holding a gun in your
Set champs aren't 10Ks. Look
Right.
for another 10K maybe.
But I think that's kind of what is happening, right?
Right.
You saw attendance on certain levels because it's obviously out. We have not necessarily experienced that,
nah, we're
but it has obviously become an issue enough for people to comment on it online. And I
Right.
think that's what's going on. People are saying, look, it's not worth traveling for, to be able to get this.
it's also October. It's like
The busiest month for anything and everything.
it's the like
Is that
get
do you
all
have
of your
receipts for that?
I think given enough time, I can provide more than
all I have to do is show you my Google Calendar. Actually, yes, I do have.
I mean,
receipts.
but you have 12 jobs.
The-
so
14.
That's on you.
the
Yeah,
amount of
me over here like I respect a side hustle, and he's like, stop it, no more jobs.
the amount of concerts that go. It's that right period of time after summer where you're not
Sure.
expecting it to be extremely hot.
Yeah.
You have the holidays. So for us specifically, right, like all of the theme parks retheme, do things. It just is one of the busiest months.
I mean, also to do expanding on that a little bit, to do a privilege check, quote unquote, is that we do live in a very populated area with a lot of stores, with a lot of opportunities. And
Yes.
so there is a chance that like we aren't suffering, or our stores aren't suffering, attendance isn't suffering because of how abundant people are, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But like a more remote store somewhere else, it may be harder to get to, and maybe their champs are suffering a little bit because of like the aforementioned, hey, even if I win this bauble, it's taken me so much time to get to the store on another day that I normally, because I have heard stories online. Hey, I don't have a local store that I can play at. I've got to drive an hour and a half to the nearest store, right?
And even to speak to that, like it would be disingenuous to say that we know a local store that is having attendance
Sure.
that is not what it was 6 or 8 months ago.
Right.
And to that point, it has been launched for just over a year. We're at 14 months now, something like that, 13, 14 months. I don't know if I'm the only neurodivergent in the room, but hyperfocus is like hyper and focus for this long.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next shiny thing pops up. And there are some people who have played other TCGs for 30 years. And there are some people who go to Michael's and buy craft supplies that get about 3.5 weeks of use. So being at the point where we're like 13 months into the year, you're right. We come from an abundance of population. We have so many good options. We're in Southern California where, spooky season hits, and now people want to go to the parks or they want to go do other concerts and things like that. If this would have happened in, I don't know, like when Inklands dropped, I don't know that it necessarily would be the same calculus. I think that the game was so hard for people to get a hold of. We've only been in like widespread availability for a short period of time, but it's also enough time where people like have other things to do in their lives.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like we don't have to be grinding out set champ practice 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like we're also coming hot off of DLC Vegas, like almost going directly into DLC Seattle, right? Like those, everything's so aggressively jam packed right now that people just might be taking it chill, not maybe set burnout, the combination of everything, right? Burnout on the game. The promo is not one that they like as much. They can't travel as much. They want to do other things or all that kind of stuff. Could be lending itself to a decreased attendance in other places, but we have not been really seeing that at our set championships for the most part, as far as we can tell.
We're sold out
Instantly. Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah, and I don't think, as far as I can tell, our local stores haven't really suffered from the the sharks wanting to come steal stuff.
It's because they can't get in,
right?
And then if they could get in, it's not an easy field.
No, not at all. I mean, I think that a lot of our players have you become very, very, very talented in their own right, and I would not be surprised if we saw. I mean, we've already seen one day two, somebody from our local store, and I would not be surprised if we keep seeing that number rise at the next few.
We have to say that one of our set champs is a friend of the podcast, Citizens of Lorcana co-host.
Yeah,
James
took it down yesterday.
Yeah,
Good job, buddy.
congratulations to him.
Congratulations.
If things are not going the way that your community wants, because there's two aspects of it, right? There is the store ownership, et cetera, level, and then there is the player base level.
Sure.
And there needs to be some sort of communication between the two of them
Definitely.
in order to have a truly good experience for everybody. So you have to meet the needs of the store, but also meet the needs of the player, which is why I say I think ultimately the solution is it comes down to the store. You're the one you need to know your community. And if you're making moves to hurt your community, it's on you, because you have access to that community. You could talk to them, but also the players, you got to talk to your store owners or the management or something. This is another sort of privilege check. We're very fortunate that the owner of the 3 stores that we play at locally, they care, legitimately care. And so it's not I can hop on Discord right now and contact him if I had to, right? That's the different level. So, I mean, if all I could say is if you're not at that level with your store, whether it's management or owner, because sometimes the owner is just a silent person, right?
Right.
The manager probably cares, right? Try to get to that point, have a relationship with them, because you need to understand where they're coming from as well. It is very symbiotic.
Yeah. There's a whole, there's hours of content that I can speak to that exact point. At the end of the day, shout out to our store owner and shout out to our store manager, because the two of them care so much about this little hobby and have been incredibly indulgent and have given me time and resources, a job, everything, that has been integral to the experience that we're speaking to right now around this table. So we do not want to come off as tone deaf, because not everybody has had that, experience. But then also it is a demonstrated success if you have community members who care really passionately about this experience for other people, and you have stores that care a lot about community engagement and people having a good time. That, spoiler alert for future content, that's the secret sauce, baby. That's a huge component of it.
Moving along with our topics that we wanted to hit today, though, Britt, in the last set championship, the one that happened yesterday that we were in attendance of, you kind of again took on a different role than Blake and myself. You took on a little TO role. Kind of how was that experience? And did working the DLC give you the necessary preparation required to handle the rowdy bunch of set championships?
Oh man, a bunch of rowdy folk. Such a great question. Also, yeah, this was my. Even though I've been staffed in a hobby store for a while, I was I want to play my set championships. This is my hobby. I am committed to playing. This time around, I was open Slack. Hey, bestie, you want to schedule me to work set championships? I haven't done competitive play this set at all. I have waxed philosophical about all of the reasons why. It's probably sour grapes, because I got my tookus handed to me in the last set championship. But I think that what I've found is that, and I've talked about this before, I enjoy showing up for the people I care about, and finding out that I was good at tournament operations is cool. Finding out that I enjoyed it and it went well and we had good outcomes. It's just now it's like an Ouroboros of wanting to do it more. Snake eating is, I don't know if I'm necessarily making the right metaphor there, but yeah. So set champs, I was not primary TO for most of it, which actually was great and fantastic because it was like assistant to the regional manager vibes, right? And the gentleman who was doing TO knocked it out of the park. Shout out, not just because you're my boss. And did a fantastic job. We were at cap. We had folks drop and then immediately come in on the wait list, you know, kind of thing. We were not able to get enough open spots for the wait list. So like the folks went home who were hoping to have been able to play that day. And an additional layer of complexity is that there was like a streaming element of the games. And so you were not managing necessarily feedback from the community that you were seeing face to face. You were also interfacing with leadership and a community that extended way beyond that, which is an exciting thing, right? I'm not on team no new friends. I'm on team all of the friends. And that reach is incredible, but also has a layer of logistical complexity to it. So when we're in a situation where, you know, you're looking at judge calls, when you're looking at situations where you have like corrective action, when you're looking at all of those, this was my first event on my like home turf. And I am so thrilled at how it went. I really have to give community, it's so weird. We talk about this all the time. Community is such a buzzword, but being able to have relationships with the people who are in the room so that when like a corrective action needed to happen, you could lean on the relationship that you had already built with that player and just go like, hey, everything's going to be okay. Like this situation is clearly lined out in our documentation. All we're going to do is handle this fairly. We're going to handle it fairly and kindly, and we'll fix it. And you're going to get back in the game. And like, that's what we're going to do. But the reason that I'm able to say that, the reason that I'm able to say fairly, because we care about everybody in the room, right? We're not going to overlook an infraction to the rest of the player's detriment to benefit one person, but we're also not going to be like, you know, throw him out into the snow because he forgot to tap his, you know, that kind of thing. You rely on those relationships to be like, hey, like we're gonna make the best call that we can, and then we're gonna get you like back into playing. Like this is not the end of the world. Not everything is a, you know, because fortunately this was not like a thing that came with like dishonesty or like cheating or anything like that. Like anything that would end in a DQ, a player integrity issue, all of it's very separate. Like we didn't have any of those. So I'm not speaking to that experience at all. I'm talking about things that are like infractions that you can very clearly see. Like this thing happens, this is the resolution. So handling it one-on-one is where relationships are huge, right? Being able to look at that person, look at that player and be like, we've got this. We know what we're doing. We know what you're doing. Fixed. But then also the reason that I could speak to that is because the broader community, when it comes to like Lorcana players who are judges or players who have such good rules brains, reaching out to other players and being like, hey, I set up this Discord where you can ask questions about rulings, or I have this ruling question channel on my Discord. These are people who have demonstrated success in other big events and are so generous with their information. I'm going to like look to camera and be like, hey, specifically, so generous with this information. It is so appreciated by people who are trying to do the best they can by their community with maybe not a whole lot of judging experience in their back pocket, to be able to pull up Discord and go, guys, I promise I checked the rules. I promise I checked my documents. I looked here, here, and here. I still have this question. If you have a second, can you take a look at it for me? And then to have my phone go off and be like, here's a clear explanation of your answer. Here is a clear resolution for your problem. And be like, you're the friggin' best. Thank you so much. And it being like, all heart emojis. It's a social game. We are social creatures. Reaching out online to people who can help with rules questions and stuff like that is so integral to having a good event. And so we did. It was me on my Team Mom Bestie BS, where I showed up like sunglasses, keys jangling, 2 boxes of donuts. And I'm like, hi guys, did you eat breakfast? And everybody's like, the last thing I want to do is touch a donut going into round 1. And I'm just like, did you eat? Do you have orange juice? And people are like, please don't perceive me for 90 minutes. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to be coloring at the back table because I'm not starting yet. But if you need anything, come talk to me. And it was like the little like mixer. I could tell everybody's nerves were nerving, but I got to see people who are like, oh yeah, you helped me at DLC Vegas. You gave me your badge. I didn't know you were a local here. And I was like, sure am. You want a donut? And they're like, please stop offering me donuts. That was the vibe. And then it was just kind of like, okay, there's going to be pizza at 1. And people are like,
Pizza didn't win the vote.
You know what? If you can come Korean barbecue pizza for 35 people, actually, please come do Korean barbecue for 35 people. No, yeah. And it was that kind of thing where it was like, Britt, do you have cups? I'm like, yeah, we got a water cooler. Sure, we got cups. I'm like, hey, manager name, do we have cups? And he's like, yeah, I just had to buy new cups. Hands me cups that look like shot glasses that you like water. No, they're like twice the size of a shot glass. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. And I was like, no, these are great. Thank you so much. But then, you know, so that's the thing. Like the mama duck thing is making sure people have food, making sure people are okay, like vibe checking the room. Then like organizationally, that's very different. Like not everybody needs to be like,
sure,
shoving donuts at players.
Yeah, I mean, it is a testament to, again, our community and what you've been able to build with, along with a lot of people in this Lorcanon community in our local area, that we're all comfortable like with, say like we have really high expectations now, right? Like it's like, oh, like when you go to an event and they don't provide you with a lunch break, or you go to an event and they don't have snacks readily available or whatever, it feels weird. Like, oh, you go to an event. Like,
oh no, I made it weird.
Which is like, oh, you go to an event and like the prize support's not as good, right? You're like, oh man, I should have just like
wish I was at home right now.
Yeah, like should have just gone to that other store, right? And again, it's like it speaks to the community, the dialogue that we've been able to have with the owner and the just in general his reception to what we're looking for and the ability that you're able to just say like, hey, like I'm just gonna get pizza for everybody so that like, you know, we may not necessarily have to slow down and do a lunch break, but we'll have some food available.
Yeah, fed populace is a happy populace. I found, and honestly, it's like 4 times a year.
Yeah,
and they're very lenient with me taking off to run down to grab pizza down the road. But
sounds like the takeaway might just be something that's like fork and knifeable, because people aren't trying to get their hands all grimy for donuts, right? Maybe it wasn't because they weren't hungry, but maybe it was like, hey, I'm not trying to get sticky sleeve syndrome.
I literally made eye contact with the first person who was like, donut, and then looked at the deck and got a little sad. And I was like, oh, I picked the wrong breakfast.
It's continental breakfast in the future.
Maybe a breakfast burrito. Yeah, maybe something. Could you imagine continental breakfast? I'm like, guys, I brought syrup. Would you like to play a game today? I brought syrup.
Here's a
and
waffle maker. That's I'm bound to not be messy. I
No.
promise.
I have a flawless history. I'm definitely not going to burn it a concerning amount. So yeah, from a TO perspective, and then husband was playing, all my friends were playing. I also have to speak about it being a position of privilege to just be like, I was in a room with 28 of my best friends and 6 of my new ones or something like that. No real strangers, and even people who were strangers were so kind. But yeah, it was watching people come back to the hobby was really good. Just being able to kind of look around and see a lot of people that I cared about was you can't bottle it. If you could, I'd have a problem. But yeah, set champs went really well from a TO perspective.
I think from an attendee perspective, I think it went off really well, except for one hitch, which is that my request to only get my good matchups was not honored.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
You
did I put that in the wrong filing bin? Maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah, because
the trash can.
I didn't.
You didn't get it?
No, and my record kind of shows that. But
did your check clear? Just kidding. I have the high moral fiber.
I think the real answer to that is no receipts.
No receipts. No, that's true. He said no
shoot.
receipt.
Yeah.
Dang, maybe you should have pressed receipt.
All right,
no.
fair enough. All right, fair enough.
We did have a friend whose literal birthday was at championship too, and he was like, "It's my birthday, which means I can't lose." And I was like, "How's it going, birthday boy?" And he was like, "Nobody else got the memo that they couldn't win."
That's a bummer. I mean, I don't think I played them because they didn't tell me that it was their birthday. I definitely would have ceded the win to them if that was possible. I don't know who it was, but what?
I'm trying to be subtle. Bleep the name.
No.
Oh.
It was his birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Happy birthday, friend.
He didn't tell me.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't broadcast it.
We're talking about right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the person that I thought you were talking
We
about.
have multiple people. Listen,
I
there's
had no
three names.
Had no idea.
Men in our community have 3 names.
Nobody
4.
told us. Nobody told me, and I didn't play him. So
overall, how did your experience of set champs so far go?
Yeah.
And actually, before I say, do you have any more that you're playing, or are you done? Are you out?
So,
He's like,
we'll-
there's this
we'll
small,
get to-
this small store in rural Nevada. They only play 7 dwarf stacks.
Yeah.
I've done my research.
no, there's we'll get back to that, but there's a chance that I may be playing one more.
Ooh.
Okay.
So I played in 2 set championships so far. I ran blue steel at both. Just I was saying leading up to this that I would try out other decks, play other decks, etc. I fell back on blue steel as a crutch. I didn't feel super comfortable playing other things. I didn't feel as comfortable playing other decks, but I mostly in this game in Lorcana, for whatever reason, I really do not enjoy playing mirror matches. Just in general, with any deck, I just don't enjoy playing mirror matches. And so the other deck that I was considering playing was blue-red. And because of how much success that Ruby Sapphire has been having, I thought that there was going to be a lot of Ruby Sapphire throughout our stores. And so I just kind of naturally didn't really want to play it. And then the other thing that we kind of predicted and we kind of saw that might be happening is that it seems like our stores, our local stores, they shift with kind of the meta. Like whatever happens at the DLC, then that's what our local meta ends up looking like until the next DLC or the next big event. Then that's what our with Emerald Steel on the rise, I thought Blue Steel was kind of positioned well again, and so that was kind of the few factors that that allowed me to settle on Blue Steel going into the set championships. That being said, I scrubbed out of both of them pretty spectacularly. A string of bad luck and probably just like lack of actual practice with the deck with the new cards. I didn't perform as well as I wanted. Didn't run into really any of the Emerald matchups. I ran into Ruby Sapphire a bunch, and I ran into Ruby Amethyst a bunch. So didn't do great, but still pretty satisfied. I don't feel that real itch or disappointment that I thought I would feel to like not do well. And I wonder if some of that is just playing against friends. Like now that I'm more within the community, like more involved in the community.
We got him.
It's been 2 months, 3 months now, and I've gotten to know everybody better. It doesn't feel, I lost, but that means my friend won.
Yeah.
So like,
That's really
like, right. So like,
That's really sweet.
they're doing well. Like, and that it's not affecting me as much as I thought it would affect me going into this.
It's very hard to feel bad when you have other people that you know and love doing well.
Yeah.
And we talked about that after the last set champs. Like we went and just hung out, and it's being able to go carpooling with your buddies to be able to go to, one of the events. It's wonderful. Cause then when you're done, you're like, okay, where's everybody going? Right. Like, what are we doing after this? Cause like the party doesn't end with a top 8, it's like, this is our community time. So let's enjoy it as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I didn't like about working this set championship. And I think that
I was like, you had to close afterwards. Everybody got to hang out and you had to close.
I think that if I'm going to sweet talk any potential employers who follow this podcast, it would just be if I was absolutely cherry picking the experience, it would be an opening shift so that I could go after top 8 cut to hang out with my friends. But that is the most privileged ask where I was like, oh, gee, guess I got to do the job I'm hired to do and
I
close.
would only like to work the hours when my friends are here.
Yes, I would like to.
And then when my friends
Please
leave, I would
only.
like to leave.
I'm going to put in a scheduling request. I'm going to be, please only schedule me when my friends are there. Thank you very much. XOXO Britt.
Also, this list of friends is growing. So.
It certainly is. It certainly.
Well,
is.
I mean, so that just means that they could potentially be get more work hours out of her, right? So that's good.
This is
or
true.
more work hours out of Matt. Filling in.
Thanks for filling in, honey.
No, but you know what? The other really exciting event that I was able to attend though was
Tell us about this. This is so stinking cool.
Yeah. So I actually was signed up to do a 3rd set championship with you, Blake, and then I ended up bailing on it because another opportunity opened up. Shout out to Lorcana Stan,
yes,
who's another creator in this space. If you're not following him, shoot him a follow. Super cool guy. He co-hosted a tournament with another local store, and they had it on the same set championship day, but they did it at this. I think it's called Disneyana Fan Expo. And it's
so cool.
It's like a fan club, a Disney fan club. And I think they're locally based. They said that usually they host their fan expo in Anaheim. This year they hosted it at the Irvine Marriott. But basically they had a Lorcana experience. It was a tournament with a bunch of prizes donated by Lorcana Stan. And then a pair of park hopper tickets donated by another benefactor. And then they had like a learn to play experience for people attending the expo that wanted to learn about Lorcana. And so I opted to do that event because as one of the quote unquote sharks, the pricing was better there. Right.
Listen, we've seen the price increase.
Right,
Those tickets are even more valuable now.
So I say it as a shark, not that I was gonna go bounce on or like trounce on competition. I had no idea what the competition was like.
The EV of the tickets exceeded
exactly,
the other your opportunity.
The need for me to bring back 2 park hopper tickets to show my girlfriend and say, hey, we can go to Disneyland. Thanks for supporting my cardboard addiction.
Oh, I
much
sweet.
outweighed my need to bring back another piece of cardboard and be like, hey, my cardboard addiction got me more cardboard. Cool, right? So yeah, I went and I did that. Also scrubbed out spectacularly, unfortunately. But that event was also really well run.
Did the request to only get good matches? Did you send it to them too?
I didn't know. I didn't have an in there, so
you don't have an in here. Let's make that clear.
And you also played the same deck that I've been telling you not to play for like the last.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Take the wheel.
The key is it's a whole new world. It's not Wheel of Fortune. That's the other,
Yeah.
that's the other game.
My gosh.
No, I mean it wasn't the same list at all three set champs. I tweaked it up at all three of these events. But yes, due to despite your warnings of don't play the deck, my stubbornness led me to play the deck regardless.
Can I pitch something? What would it look like if you just listened to Blake?
I don't know. This is
The actual look on his face.
Right, because I think the only evidence we have at this point is Dallas when he was trying to swap decks, and I was like, no, you can't swap decks now. You have to learn to play this into your bad matchups and just be good at the good ones.
Oh, when we
and he did well.
Sat down at his dining room table and just like hammered out the Ruby Amethyst matchup.
No, it was before that. It was the night where we inceptioned the podcast till 3 a.m.
3 a.m. in the B-Dubs parking lot.
Yeah.
Look, this isn't a podcast about how Mike doesn't listen to Blake.
It is now. It reoccurringly it has been.
Look, really, we know the parameters to a deck that Mike will play, and it must include a whole new world. And none of the other options presented to me had that in the deck list.
One of them did. What were you playing at locals?
Oh yeah, I was playing. I was playing because of another influencer that I saw on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing Broom's Mill.
You were so happy. I was like, how's your record? And you're like, dog water, but it's so much fun.
No, it is really fun. It is really fun. I think it just needs to be fine-tuned. If I go to the other set championship that I might go to, there is a 30% chance I might bring it.
For the chaos, I am like 95% behind you on that.
But
I wanna see it happen.
really the reason that I may or may not be attending one more is because it would be on DLC Seattle weekend. And as maybe aforementioned or not, I am unable to attend DLC Seattle because it is my girlfriend's birthday on Sunday. But if she'll allow me out on Saturday because of the promise of doing something on Sunday, then I may attend another set championship. But also, there's an outside chance that she's going to New Orleans, maybe?
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
that we might be able to talk her into going to New Orleans, maybe, with Britt. So
Unrelated, I'm not going to DLC Seattle because I'm going to New Orleans.
So there's an outside chance that she may be tagging along on that trip, which
I
may
didn't realize I was
free
enabling
me
you.
up for a
I gotta hit the New Orleans group chat and be like, hey guys, what if we got one more?
Right. No. But that would be the other one that I attend. But for whatever reason, I'm not
That
like.
would be so fun. That fixes everything. It's not. It didn't need to be fixed. Happy birthday.
No.
Happy birthday to your lovely partner, who I think the world of.
No. Yeah. And again, like, for whatever reason, my performance has not really. I'm not down on it. I'm still real high on the game. I think it's still really fun to play. I'm not beating myself up for it, and so for that reason, I'm not really itching to like play in every set champs that I can get my hands on. You know.
I truly understand that.
Yeah.
Again, I signed up for the 3 that I was available for and comfortable with.
Yeah.
That has my friends in it, and that's it, right?
done.
Win or lose. I was very fortunate to do well this time.
Yeah.
Right. Like again, I've done well in the sense that I've already got
research.
but very little preparation, I think, is and that's the part that to
you don't
me
have
I
to
think
get ready if you stay ready, Blake.
I mean, really, I think it just, and I'm trying to find the truth of how it's gone for me more than anything. And I think it just comes down to two different factors. One, the fact that I have a lot of previous experience with TCGs.
A lot of TCG.
So there's not a lot of like curve learning for me for a lot of it. So I can kind of jump in and do fairly well.
Your fundamentals.
And as soon as everybody else catches up to me, then it's for sure like I'm off that train, right? The gravy train is done. I'm going to have to really put effort into it. And I know this.
You mean catches up in experience, not skill, which is what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's the true difference with me just sitting down at any round. And it's like, I've done this a million times before. So whatever happens, right?
I think you're selling yourself a little short, but I understand what you're
I think the secondary aspect is kind of what we were going over, which is you played like the bad deck into the current meta, which it might do well into larger metas, but I don't think in our local meta your deck is suited, which is why I was constantly essentially trying to tell you play something different. I also understand, and this is, for everybody out there, if you're just doing one deck and that's what you're doing, that's fine too, right? Like learn your deck in and out. You can still be competitive. That's great, but my experience has been different where I played in 3 set champs and I played 3 different decks. So, and I tweak them, right?
What were the 3 you were on for the different set champs?
So I tried all the 3 big ones at this point in time. So for
that's right, because you were on Ruby M when Matt was on Ruby M.
So the first one, I did Ruby M, but I made it more of a Jim Hawkins splash version.
Really?
Yeah, I'll make sure to give lists. So I took the Flynn package completely out of it.
Good.
I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I just added more card draw. I expected there to be more Ruby Amethyst, so I wanted to make sure that I was able to handle
harder.
it. Yeah, to survive longer, I guess. Because it's so much attrition at that point. Like nobody's questing out a ton.
Right. And the thing that, because I wasn't at that set championship, I was working our home store while this was at a sister store. But Matt went and played. And Matt was on Ruby M for his first set champ. And I asked him how he went. And he was like, washed out. He was like, that's exhausting. He's like, I got paired into Ruby M mirror matches all day. He was like, and I had to fight for everything I got. And I'm sitting there and I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's not what he was. I was like, oh. But like, that's
why I play Blue Steel. Jasmine takes the carpet.
Whatever Jasmine take the carpet.
Whatever happens.
That is a real thing now.
That's
going
on Twitter.
So then the next one, the one that I washed out of was Emerald Steel.
It's so funny, Mike.
which I think it's the combination of, it's probably the deck that I have the least real experience.
Which one? I'm distracted by
Emerald
Jasmine.
Steel. Emerald Steel.
Okay, Emerald Steel.
And I know that it also, I would say it has a higher ceiling of like, you need to know what you're doing with the mulligans and the matchups.
That's so funny because that is what I told Matt to play for the second sec champ and he didn't. Go ahead.
And Matt's a good player.
Of course.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
He really is.
I know.
And then for yesterday, I played a Ruby Sapphire build that was lower on uninkables. Like I took the ice block sort of package out of it. I think I was only running 2 Madame Medusa, but I went 3 B preps, 4 big Sisu. I expected far more aggro, like hyper-ish aggro.
And we did have more aggro, didn't we?
We had more aggro, but it wasn't the hyper aggro.
No.
So it was frustrating aggro to me, where it was all 3 toughness or 3 power, and I took ice block out. So I definitely like reinvented how to play my deck in the fly. And my first round opponent actually made that comment where she was telling me, it's like you could see you literally adapting to learn how to play against the deck with your deck. And so I think, inherently it's Ruby Sapphire. It's a dime deck.
Yeah.
I think I got 1 victory off of dime. Every other time it was like, okay, big Sisu come out, big Sisu quest. Except for the Emerald Steel matchup, which he played wonderfully. Like I thought for sure I was going to lose that matchup.
Yeah.
But I just ended up at the very end finding the line that took just enough off of his board for him to not be able to quest for the win and kept me just alive enough to be able to win the next turn. He had one out to survive a turn, and I didn't know if he could. He needed to have a cove, put both things on the cove, and take out my character.
I was actually also going to make an observation that at that set championship, the only undefeated player was on Blurple, which made me think, number one, the only undefeated player was on Blurple.
You mean Plue?
Plue.
I quit.